We welcome you to another edition in our series of conversations with Longhorn coaches here on TexasSports.com. My name is Craig Way. Glad to have you with us and pleased to be joined by Longhorns head football coach Tom Herman. I'll cut right to the chase and jump right in with something, pretty heavy hitting with the shelter in place and the coronavirus and quarantine going on. Which board games are you good at with the family? Which ones do you get the floor wiped with, and same thing with the video games. Which ones are you good at, and which ones can TD and Maverick take you to the cleaners?
Well, I'm not good at any of the video games. Let me tell you that. I actually, Maverick has been playing this Spider-Man one that's kind of new, and I find myself sitting there just watching him play because they're so realistic, But the board games, we played a lot of Uno. We played a lot of Monopoly, the Game of Life. We've played spades, dominoes, cornhole, ping pong. So I'm probably, I think the only win I have might be in a hand of Uno. I haven't won any of the Monopoly. I haven't won the Game of Life. So, but I will tell you this, Craig, if there is ever a silver lining in all of the tragedy that's going on around us, it has certainly been my time with our family. I think we're going on, all five of us sitting down to a dinner, I think 8 nights in a row. And I can't remember 8 nights in the last year combined that we've done that. And so we either have a family game night or family movie night. It's one of the two after dinner. So that's been really cool, especially for someone who's away from his family a lot of the year as I am. It's been really cool. And the kids are getting along for the most part, knock on wood, which is maybe the most surprising of everything.
It's interesting, you bring up a point. Does your family talk to you differently or react differently since they're seeing you on an everyday basis? I have a son home from college, and it's a little bit different for us. My dog looks at me differently because I've been around. So, I don't know if I'm quite expressing the dynamic, but just the fact that you're around them all the time, does it spark different ways of communicating and conversation and things like that? Because they haven't been used to having you there for so many consecutive hours.
Yeah, I think so. I think you see different sides of everybody's personality. You see, just all sorts of different things that you wouldn't necessarily see when, especially for me, in the fall. I'll go, see my kids after the game, and I won't see them awake until the following game, post game. So, this has been quite a learning experience for everybody.
Okay. That aside, now, since you last had a conference call with the media, and we're talking about being able to communicate your staff with your student athletes, that sort of thing. I wanted to give you a chance to kind of give an update to everybody on how all of that's going now that you have an opportunity to have the virtual meetings and to get a chance to share the knowledge and to work through the things that normally you'd be going through on the practice field right now during spring drills.
Yeah. So, and to be honest with you, that normal from last week changed again this week because they pushed it from 2 hours meeting a week to 4 hours meeting a week. So I'll just kind of give you a daily, weekly type deal. So on Mondays, we'll have an hour-long staff meeting in the morning at 8 a.m. And then at 9 a.m., we've got offense and defensive unit meetings where the coordinators will speak to their respective sides of the ball. And then at 9:50, we'll have a 30-minute special teams meeting where Coach Boulware will go over some install. That's one thing that we didn't have over the winter was any special forces installation. So he's got to get caught up on that. Then Tuesday and Thursday in the morning, we'll have position meetings from 9 until 10:15. And On Wednesday, we'll have another staff meeting at 10 a.m. where we'll talk recruiting the offensive and defensive staffs. We'll meet from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. Just to collect their thoughts and continue installation. And then Friday, we'll have a staff meeting as needed. And then most of our assistant coaches have blocked off. I know for myself, right around noon is when we kind of get done with the football stuff, all the different staff meetings and player meetings and special teams meetings and all of that. And then the afternoon, we kind of have blocked off for recruiting communication and for me sitting here doing this with you too.
Would you say, or how closely are you able and the staff able to approximate the mental side of what you would be going through, the classroom, the teaching side of what you would be going through this time of year, the way you're having to do it with your guys? How closely are you able to approximate how you would normally be doing it?
I think it's 95%. I really do, with the modern technology that we have. The one thing when you share your screen on Zoom, it's great. So any PowerPoint you have, any something a playbook diagram, anything like that, it's great. But sharing video, to be honest with you, it gets a little choppy. And they're really, from what I gather, there's not really a solution to that. But we're working through it. And we've told our guys, and for one, we had football meetings the entire last 3 weeks that we were with our players. So the normal down and distance and field zone offense and defense, that has been installed. And this year, especially, they've allowed us some more freedom with walkthroughs. So we took advantage of that. Position specific drills. So these coaches have already coached their players. So it's really the one thing left to do is the actual 11 on 11 full speed reps. And but football is football. And the technology now is such that these guys can really, really simulate the classroom setting as good as I've ever even dreamt of.
Well, here's a technology question. We're just out of curiosity. Have you had a meeting with all of your players, your staff, your coaches, where you had like boxes for each of them, like 150 boxes or whatever across the screen? How did you make that work, or is it just down completely to you and your staff and your position coaches with the players?
No, I had a team meeting last Tuesday. Now, unfortunately, I could only fit like 40 faces on the screen. So, I had to like toggle, I think, or maybe it was 30 faces because I had like 12 screens or 10 screens. So I tried to do that. But really the more personal way for me as the head coach is to jump in and out of these position meetings that they're having and see guys in groups of 10 or 12 or 15 if you're one of the lineman groups. But I made it a point. I reached out to every single player on our roster. When this thing first started, I got through probably about 8 to 12 a day of guys that I would communicate with just to see how they were doing and holding up. And we'll probably do that again at some point. And I've emailed the parents once a week to kind of give them updates. And so doing our best as the head coach is just really, really so hard. When you're talking about over 100 guys and 10 full-time assistant coaches, a strength staff, a nutrition staff, a training staff, there's probably 200 people below me that I'm in charge of, and to have any kind of setting is where I see all of them at once is pretty impossible.
Well, that brings us to the physical component, and you said that was when on the conference call initially. You said that that's the only thing that was really missing is the physical component of what you'd be going through in a spring practice. So, tell fans a little bit about how you and the staff instruct the players on what they can best do with regard to conditioning and what Yancey McKnight has done with these guys, and then we'll get into the nutrition side of it as well. But first of all, what's the ongoing message with your guys on what they need to do physically and how they go about that right now?
Well, I all credit goes to Yancey and Craig Moore, our football nutritionist. They've truly individualized everybody's plan from a workout standpoint and a nutrition standpoint based on what they have access to. Some guys have gyms, or full, weight rooms that they are still open for them. And, some guys have, some dumbbells and barbells at the house, and some guys have nothing. So we're filling buckets up with sand. It's pretty neat to see the kids. So to give that answer, that there's probably 100 kids, and Coach McKnight's got 100 different, weight workouts that he's managing. So there's my daughter in the background, by the way. So it's very individualized, but we're staying on top of them. And outside of academics, that was my nutrition was the biggest thing that I was fighting for our players.
Yeah. By the way, Priya's more than welcome to join us if she wants to. There.
I don't think she wants to, based on what I saw her reaction was.
Yeah, and I thought it was a great video what we saw Court Jacobs with the buckets. What was it? Was it cement or sand there that he went down to Home Depot or someplace and set up his own kind of makeshift weight room, if you will?
Yeah, and that's what we've been telling our guys. If there's a will, there's a way, right? And if you want to work out, if you want to stay in shape, if you want to lift something and get benefit from it, we'll help you find the way, but there's got to be the will to do it at first.
You expressed, when you were asked about this on the conference call, a definite concern with regard to nutrition and how your guys would deal with that being away at home, given how well they eat in the tank and on campus, as opposed to not necessarily left to their own devices, but left to what they're left with at home. Have you been able to get some reaffirmation from your guys on how they're going about it nutritionally and what Craig Moore and the staff and what they're trying to do to make sure they keep that part of it up?
Yeah, we were, one of the first, I think we were the first to send care packages to our guys. We knew that day was coming, so we'd already packed them up and had them ready to ship Monday morning. And I know there's other schools in our conference that are still going through the packing and shipping process of that still to this day. So, we sent them, meal replacement powder in muscle milk. We sent them all of their vitamins and supplements and a ton of energy bars. And so we're going to try to give our kids everything that we can because, in my opinion, they deserve it.
Yeah. In terms of the feedback that you're getting from your guys, how are they dealing with it? I mean, they're also having to deal with the academics of dealing with classes online and completing the semester academically. That's always a critical component for what you and your staff have and expect of them as well. How are they dealing with everything that has wrapped itself around what we're dealing with right now?
I'd say in general, very well. I think a lot of guys, probably the right word is frustrated, that just, these guys, when you're dealing with athletes at this level, that's one of the beauties of, I think one of the things that drew me to coaching was just the regimen. You're on such a scheduled deal that, you can't hardly screw it up. And for that schedule to get disrupted in such a major way, it throws guys for a loop and they get frustrated. I think you brought up a good point. The academics, that's been really challenging. A lot of our guys need that tutoring. They need that structure. And that's been challenging. Our academic staff, Brett Wohlers, Krista, Jason. It's phenomenal what these guys have done with tutoring appointments and kind of checking in on guys. And, the hard part at Texas too is, some classes are live and virtual, and the kids have to go in. Some are what they're calling on demand, where a professor may video a lecture and you watch it at your own pace. And so just managing those schedules is challenging, but our guys are doing it. I think one thing that gets lost in all of this, these guys are dealing, some of them, with some significant tragedies at home with jobs getting laid off and, not knowing how the rent's going to get paid and, when the assistance check is going to come from the government. And so, we're still in that phase where, it's about taking care of you as an individual and your family, and we'll figure the rest out as we go.
Another issue that you were asked about, and this gets back to, I guess, the football side of things a little bit, is the whole issue of what would be the norm for some guys at some institutions this time of year entering the transfer portal. And we've talked about the portal before. You just have one of your guys had kind of looked into it. Denzel Okafor decided to go ahead and pull himself out of it and is committed back with you. Do you see this this whole issue, the whole sphere of the transfer thing, perhaps lowering a little bit simply because of what we're living in right now, and it would be so much more difficult for guys, whether they're going to be involved in mini camps later or we don't know, that it might ultimately affect the whole issue of even the thought of transfer for guys?
Yeah, I think for grad transfers, definitely, because to think that, you're going to walk into a new place at the very earliest, June 1, and go learn a new offense or defense and then go beat out the current starter, I think is a pretty daunting task, and I do think for the long term, the guys that maybe want to leave after their freshman or sophomore year and are willing to sit out a year and do all that, I don't know that it'll have much effect because they do have to sit out. But the grad transfer market, yeah, I do definitely think that this will slow it down significantly.
One other thing with regard to the future, and I know you were asked about this, and you said, who of us knows where this is all going to go? Is there also the ongoing message that you have for your guys about, because we don't know how well this is, to try to stay level about it, and we'll get back when we get back, even though we have uncertainty, and I guess you might say understandable uncertainty about what might happen in the fall and whether we're out there, and hopefully we're out there and we've got games going on and you guys get back to practice, but there is that cloud of uncertainty hanging over them.
Yeah, I think anytime you don't have control over something and you don't know where it's headed, there does become some frustration and uncertainty. But, what I've told our players is, I don't even know. So it's we're working off of June 1st, right? And that's the earliest it appears that we're going to even have a chance at getting our hands on our players and being around each other. And if the government, if our university, if the conference, the NCAA, whoever the powers that be, at some point tell us that date is going to be different, then we'll adjust. We'll figure it out. So it doesn't. It's like don't cry over spilt milk. Like, guys, don't. You're wasting brain cells trying to figure the future out and what it holds. So we'll just. So much changes from day to day. This thing started. Think about this, only 3 weeks ago, and it feels like it was 3 years ago. So, it's been changing. In the early stages, not even just daily, but hourly. But even at this point, three weeks and some change into it, it's changing. Something's changing every day.
You said you didn't know about a lot of things. Do you know how long you're planning to keep the beard? I asked CDC that. He says he's not shaving until there's actual games being played again. Plan to hold out?
Him and you both could grow a much fuller beard than me. No, I figured this was a good time to see what it looks like fully grown out. I usually keep it pretty trim, but yeah, why not? It's not like I got to see anybody.
Something else to discuss with the family, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, Tom, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. We'll all hope that we're seeing each other in person, that things are safe, and we're proceeding forward. In the meantime, be healthy, be safe. Same thing also with Michelle and with the kids. Appreciate the time.
Hey, Craig, real quick, how are you and your family holding up? You guys okay?
Well, and I appreciate you asking. My family's doing fine. My son, who's a sophomore at Midwestern State, has been home, and he's learning online like everybody else. My other kids are all doing well in their industries, and I was given a new granddaughter a couple of weeks ago. I haven't been able to see her yet up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but she looks great from all the photos and video and pictures, so we're all open for that as well. I appreciate you asking, and we'll all hope for good things going forward.
All right. Thanks, Craig. Hook 'em.
All right. That's Longhorns head coach Tom Herman. Thanks for joining us here on TexasSports.com.